Professor Schippers, may I ask you some questions?
Yes, of course. What do you want to know, Rico?
Now, it's September 13, 2023 when we record this. Welcome in my place this time, Michaéla.
Yeah.
We're talking for our channel, Follow the Science. We haven't done that in a while.
True, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the last times we spoke was with a Dutch scientist, Laurens Buys, and you said you'd been ill and that you were recovering. Now it's the end of summer in the Netherlands. Let's do an update. So how are you doing?
Yeah, a little bit better, but still recovering. It's been a long search to find ways to recover. And so you first go to the doctor and, the whole hospital thing, and then they can't find anything, so I still want to recover, and then I start to find other ways of recovering, which are still evidence-based, I think, because I always try to go for the evidence-based, and not always, but of course there are also experimental things you want to try if there's no harm in doing it. But
So you're the scientist, I'm the journalist. I've been doing this since 2018, and I've also got a newsletter. Now in the European Union, a new censorship law has just been
passed.
come into effect, the Digital Services Act. And what that thing can do is impose the opinion of European Union through big tech and suppress whatever is not wanted. So I was thinking maybe I shouldn't do that newsletter for that journalistic channel the way I did it, but maybe use it to show solutions or a way forward, evidence-based, and do a win-win, and combine the thing with Follow the Science.
Yes.
So that's what I proposed to you, and that's what I did. And now we have to write our first shared newsletter.
Yes.
What's going to be in it?
Yeah, I think I would say what we want to do in the future, all the things that we did in the last couple of months. It wasn't a lot, but still we did do something. And I always want to come up with positive solutions. So maybe these new films will be in it.
Definitely. So that's what I did with the journalistic newsletter, is update the audience with some behind-the-scenes information or new interviews that I did. So we're going to continue on that. But people can subscribe to it. That's why I mentioned it also.
Yes.
You can go to followthescience.nl and subscribe to our brand new
newsletter.
used newsletter. Okay. One of the first things that I did recording with you was in Brielle.
Yes.
Where you wanted to talk about the Akte van Verlatingen.
Yes.
Act of Abjuration. I haven't rewatched it. It's been over a year, I suppose. But the main thing that I take away from what we did there is when those in power abuse power, there's an obligation that lies on the people to revolt.
At least to do something. There's a moral obligation to not, to make sure that you don't follow the ones who are in power. Because as I told in different articles that I wrote since then also, is that in a certain period of times, and basically that is throughout history has always been the case, the elite starts to suppress the masses. And that can be elite of anything, but usually it's the richest people in the world that try to suppress the masses and control them. And if it goes too far, then usually what happened was a famine, and then a lot of people died, and then the population recovered. So most people have died by the hands of government in the history of mankind. And that's even the recent history of mankind. So there is a moral obligation to make sure that humanity is served and not those in power.
Now I was looking for that interview that we did back then in Brielle last year, but it's not on Follow the Science. Are we going to do those things also?
I think it would be nice to merge them because they are on the Great Citizens Movement website, but not a lot of people have been finding these interviews. The Great Citizens Movement is about, of course, how can we change this? The Great Citizens Declaration is actually also, the Act of Abjuration was followed by the Declaration of Independence of the United States, which is much more well known, but there is a relation between the two. I think we need a new one, which is the Great Citizens Declaration, so that's why I made this film. But I got a guy from the United States, Richard Barilla. He said, I desperately want to help because I found this treasure trove of all these nice things that you've been doing, but yeah, they're hidden somehow. So we need to kind of make sure that more people know about them. And that's what we started doing. So.
Okay, looking forward to see what comes out of that. The Act of Abjuration, the Akte van Verlatingen, can be seen as our Declaration of Independence in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was from King Philip II during the 80 Years Spanish War.
I was thinking back on that interview that we did back then, last year, because of an incident that just happened in the Netherlands. One of our representatives in Parliament also said, I'm looking forward to people standing up for themselves, and not just by demonstrating between 1 and 4 p.m., but by calling for what he called a velvet revolution. Now he's been indicted for incitement, our member of Parliament. Can we still speak out in the way the Akte van Verlatingen called for, or how are we going to change our talking about these matters, even for Follow the Science?
Yeah, basically, if I understand it correctly, he just said we have to do what our moral obligation is. But then other people will disagree and say, hey, but there is nothing going on. So this is something I want to talk about in a separate film, the Just World Hypothesis, because psychologists have been wondering about the same thing. How is it possible that those in power get support of people even when they're even cruel or not doing what's right for humanity? And they even get more support. How does that happen? So that's a good question that we can answer.
We have to see what comes out of that. So, indicting a member of Parliament in the Netherlands, that doesn't happen that often.
It's very rare, yeah.
And all he's doing is being critical. So that gets me worried as a journalist. I'm tend to be critical.
That's your job, to be critical.
So,
and you're doing a good job, and then you can be punished for doing the job that you're supposed to do.
Okay, you have not been totally quiet. You have done interviews, you have done presentations, and you asked me to also show them through Follow the Science. What can you tell me, people about what's coming up, what you've been recording over the last months?
Actually, I did one interview with Univibes, which is about all the, because it's interesting because one of my first papers I wrote was for the greater good, the devastating side effects of the COVID-19 crisis, which was in 2020, and then all of those some of it were predictions, but all of these things have come true, and some of them even worse because that was after the first lockdown I wrote it, and so Tim Douwsma, he asked me. From Univibes, he asked me, can you please do an interview with me? And then I thought, okay, that might be a good idea, because he said, everything you said, we spoke with each other in 2020 and everything you said has come true. And people have forgotten about what you said at that time. And I said, well, sure, let's do an interview. And that's what we did. Yeah. And then I have to think about the other one I did. Oh yeah, I did a podcast for Hope XL.
There you go.
How you can become, find happiness. How to find happiness. And then I said, well, it can be a byproduct of meaning in life. So we can experience meaning in life, and then the byproduct can be happiness. And just chasing happiness is usually not the right way to do it. And that's what I'm telling in that podcast. Okay,
so we're going to merge my journalistic work, Follow the Science, with also the Great Citizen Movement endeavor to find meaning in life and change the world for the better that way. Exactly, because all three have the same goal, I think. And there was also one person who said, well, you're spreading yourself thin. Abir Ballan from Think Twice. Because he said you have the Great Citizens Movement, you have Follow the Science, and you have Ikigai TV, where you have the tools where people can use tools to become happy, and the letter to the future and everything. And the feedback was you should make it more narrow? Well, at least more synergy between the three, or more visible, that
because people start to associate you with something. So if I talk about Rico, they say, oh, it's podcast. But if they talk about me, it's like Great Citizens Movement, Follow the Science, Ikigai TV. She's also a professor. She has also the Erasmus Center for Study and Career Success. So I have all these.
Well, I'm desperately trying to also get associated as a musician, but that.
Yeah. That is its problem if you do more than one thing.
Okay. So we're going to record interviews like these about psychological phenomena, current events.
Yes.
And talk to scientists around the world that give us hope, or what are we looking for?
We are looking for at least people who are being critical and try to have a different standpoint than the mainstream standpoint. So I keep finding scientists that do that and that don't only follow the mainstream narrative. And at the same time, from their perspective, offer hope indeed. Because hope is almost the most important thing for people to stay alive, right?
Right, okay, so let's jumpstart Follow the Science for hope.
Okay, great.